Alrighty guys, so as your content creator, I don't really have any say in this decision, so without further ado, we're going to be taking this Dell Optiplex build that I just put together and put it in a Lian Lancool 2 case. Let the fun begin. What's going on guys? Dan with PC Tech Hustle coming at you with another video. And today, as you saw there quickly with the intro, we have a Dell Optiplex build that I put together in my last video for a very cheap, just get started gaming build. And I wanted to do a case transplant video. And I had this case on hand, being a Lian Lancool 2 white edition actually, so this should be interesting. But I'm saving it for a build that I have some other parts sitting out for. So since I didn't have any other cases on hand, I went and threw a poll out on my YouTube community, and I got a pretty unanimous response that you guys want to see me put this in here. And by the way guys, if you're new here and you enjoy builds like this, being a Dell Optiplex build and doing some case transplants or any other PC tech related content, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, and don't forget to tick the bell notification icon. That way you're informed of whenever I drop my latest content. So let's get a little bit closer here on the cases here, talk about some of the caveats that we'll run into as far as what possible problems we might face in the process, and hopefully make this a 100% successful transplant that you guys can use, hopefully as a template, if you're looking to do the same thing. Let's get cracking. Alright guys, so quickly just going to cover the things that we're going to have to do in particular to this build, being using the Lian Lancool 2 and some of the proprietary things that we need to get past with the Optiplex. So right off the bat, let's just quickly talk about the Lancool because it'll be easy. Now, don't roast me here guys, but like I said, this case was actually for another build that you'll see later on. But I got the white version, so having a green PCB from Dell is, you know, I would definitely suggest if you want to go with a Lancool, get you the black, unless you just absolutely love white and green PCB mixtures, and so whatever. But if I were going to do this for legit real, right, I would definitely opt to get the black one because I think it would just kind of go better with the green Dell motherboard. So with the Lancool 2 here is we're just going to use it in its stock kind of default orientation. So this is all front USB 3.0, which is going to present us another problem with the Dell Optiplex because the Dell Optiplex is a 2.0 older setup. So that's actually easily overcomable by getting you a expansion card that would go into USB 3, which I got this off of Amazon as well, and I'll put a link for up on the screen for you guys. But this actually, I've used these before in some of my other builds. This is just a PCIe card that plugs in to the slot and offers you a place to plug in your 20 pin, which I'll put a little closer here, and that would be coming from the front of the IO panel of the case. It needs some SATA power, and then it provides you that native front USB 3.0 capacity, as well as offers you 4 more at the rear. So I definitely suggest using these. These are like anywhere between $20 and $30 on Amazon. So I think that should take care of the issues that we would have with the Lancool being a new case and trying to provide the new features of the case through the Dell motherboard. So with that being said, we'll push that aside here and grab us the Optiplex. So there's a few proprietary things with Dell. The back fan needs to be plugged into this motherboard, and it's a proprietary connection. It's not your typical 3-pin. So if you're getting rid of this fan and going with a fan option in the Lancool or any other case that you use, know that that will just present you with an error upon boot up, though you can actually get past that by pressing F1 and it'll just let you boot in. Another thing that would give you an error is this front temperature sensor, which I guess technically we could take with us, but if we're already going to be getting an error because we're not going to use the back exhaust fan, there really isn't a point in bringing that along with us because we're still going to have to hit F1 to get through anyway. Thirdly, we're going to have an issue with the power switch, which is, can't really see it from here because all this cable jumbled mess, but the power switch is also proprietary, though we'll have a solution for that. To be able to kind of just use one of the jumper pins inside the front panel power button connector from the Lancool
and just get that plugged in here. So we should be able to get past that without a major problem. We'll get into that once we get there. And then lastly, underneath the video card, we can't see it right now. Again, we'll kind of quickly talk about once we get to that point, is the HD audio, front panel audio will not be really usable. Now, I could possibly find like the cabling pinouts and all that stuff and splice some wires and maybe make that work, but this is supposed to be easy for you guys, and I want it to be easy for myself. So I'm gonna just disregard that and not set the Lancool up to have front panel audio support anyway. So without further ado, let's turn this into a nice little build montage with some music, and hope you enjoy, and let's get cracking. Alrighty guys, so let's talk about all of the caveats in full and some of the things I experienced with getting it mostly put together and wanted to test it out. Make sure that you guys were fully prepared to take on these caveats as well, because as I mentioned early in the video, there would be some. Alright, so first thing is the power switch header. So we have it up here, and I kind of accidentally mangled it a little bit trying to figure some things out here, but I finally got to figure it out so that way you guys can use this and just go. These first two pins here on the very left side facing the RAM, facing towards the CPU, is the power plus and minus for your power switch. So switch where the label is shown is going to face away from the memory. So you plug that guy in. It has to go that way too, otherwise it will not work. So then the next things we're going to use, and this is where you could use a jumper if you want. If you don't, that's okay, because you don't necessarily need to use it. So in effect, you can jump the next two pins, which would be the middle two up and down pins, with the power plus and minus cables here. So then you would plug those in right next to where you plugged in the power switch, and you're good to go. So that's all you need. The main focus here was I wanted to make sure I had a functional power switch. So when I go click the button, the PC turns on and off. Otherwise, it's going to be a big pain for you. You would have to plug in the power in the back. Because if you don't have the power switch running and you just plug in the power in the back of the PC, it just turns on. So there's nothing that kind of closes that circuit and allows you to turn it, flip it with the power button. All right, guys, so moving on to the additional caveats. As I mentioned earlier, I don't really necessarily care about the boot up air because I want to use the larger fans that the Lian case comes with. So I wasn't going to include this here stock fan that comes in the rear of the Optiplex. Now, since I'm not using that, the cable that would normally plug in up here right by the CPU power header is going to throw you an error and is going to cause you to receive that error before boot up. Again, you can just hit F1 and get through it, right? So next, a big caveat that I want you to be very well aware of is this here is your temperature probe that normally sits at the front of the case for the Dell Optiplex. But if the motherboard does not detect it, which its header is down below in the very bottom right hand corner, small little tiny 2-pin header here. Trying to get a focus on that for you guys. There you go. So it plugs in down here, and actually I'll plug that in real quick. It only goes one way, so be mindful of that. Now, the reason this one is important because if it isn't plugged in, the CPU basically thinks that the system is overheating or it doesn't detect any type of temperature input. But the fan will ramp up to 2600 RPM and it's loud because it's a small fan, it's not a great fan. But something I would recommend you make sure you have when you're doing a case transplant so that this fan doesn't spin up to max speed and it doesn't change. So lastly, speaking of fans here, we got the top 120, the rear 120, and the front 120. So we don't have 3-pin headers or any real way to power these fans from the motherboard. So that's real simple. What you can do is you can find these types of connectors on Amazon. I'll put a link for it and put it up on the screen for you guys. But this is just a Molex male or female connection to a 3-pin, and that just provides you power. Now, one drawback to that obviously is it spins the fans at max speed. So these are 1300 RPM fans. They're not real loud though. 1300 RPMs is pretty, I would say, sustainable. So I didn't feel like it really bothered me to hear them spinning at full speed. What really bothered me was the CPU fan because it's smaller and quite honestly, it's probably not as good of a quality of fan as these Lian fans. So now an alternative would be you get a fan controller, and again, that would be more costly. I think I'll have to double check, but like I said, I'll have it on the screen. These would be very cheap solution to a fan controller. Alright guys, so that covers the caveats in full. So we're gonna button it up and pan over to some nice, sweet, sexy B-roll for you guys for the finished product. Alrighty guys, so here is, yes, the Dell Optiplex in its new home, being a Lian Lancool 2 case. Not a permanent home though, because yeah, this is not what I would consider a viable budget option for doing a case transplant. There's plenty of other, even RGB cases out there that are even also tempered glass that would probably be a more suitable option for a transplant, because if you're buying an Optiplex, you're not really looking to make a huge investment, right? Also, hopefully this video was good for you guys and as far as understanding the caveats, and hopefully I broke that down well enough for you guys. And also I want to give credit to the net guy. He actually showed me via one of his videos, and I'll put a link to his channel in the description down below, but he helped me kind of identify via watching his video where I need to kind of go scouting out to try to figure out the pinout for the power switch up front and what really needed to be done to make that work. So kudos to you, the net guy. Guys, go check out his channel. Great content, great dude. And before we go, guys, make sure you check out the description down below. I have some links to some of the parts, the add-on parts that I had to use to get this operational. Those are also affiliate links, so it helps give a little bit of a kickback to the channel and helps me keep producing this content for you guys. Other than that, guys, make sure you do the YouTube thing, right? Give me a like if you enjoyed this content or you found it helpful or informative. Let me know in the comments too if you're here because you're trying to do a case transplant and you wanted a good example, and hopefully my content was helpful in that regard. Also, I got a couple videos here queued up for you. One being where I did the original build to this Dell Optiplex, where I took some parts and slammed it into the OEM case and made it a gaming PC. Anyway guys, thanks for tuning into this video. Really appreciate you giving me your time. And stay tuned though, as we got this i7 that we still got to test and see how well it'll perform in today's 2020 gaming. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.